Welcome back. So now that we have the response, we need to access its elements. And as you can see, it's a JSON. So first of all, we need to parse this JSON response. So in our code, what I'm going to do is that I am going to first use the HTTP request .response text and pass it inside JSON.parse. And I'm going to pass this response text. That way we will be able to access all elements. And I'm going to store the result inside a variable called response. And now this response is a valid JSON. And we no longer need this console log. But how are we going to access each element or each key in this JSON response? Well, you have two choices. Either you need to copy this response and examine it in another software or text editor, or you can just refer back to the documentation of the provider. And as you can see, they provide you with the response. And this is the response that you are going to get. It's exactly like this, but this is just very difficult to read. So you need, as I told you need to copy it and examine it outside, or you can just refer to this and check which keys you want to access. So what we want to access is the city. Here we need to access the name of the city. We also need to access the weather, which is the most important thing, the temperature. And we also need to access the weather icons. We have an icon and maybe the humidity as well. And you have a bunch of other elements as well, or keys as well. So it's up to you which ones you want to use. But these are the ones that I'm going to use, and you can pick up your choices. So I'm going to get back to our code and access first the name of the city, and also the temperature, the weather icons, and the humidity. So in our code here, now I can access all of these. And I'm going to store all of them in just variables so that they become easier to read. Here, let's say city equals to response dot location and then dot your name. We also have let the temp for temperature response dot current dot temperature. We also need the humidity. Let hum for humidity equals to response dot current dot humidity. And finally, I'm going to also access the icon equals to response dot current, but this time it's an array. So it's going to be weather underscore icons, and we need to access the first element only, which is stored in index 0. And now that we have the most important weather parameters, we need to pass them to the user. We need to display them in the chat container. How would we do so? It's actually very, very simple. We can simply use the chatbot send message and pass them, or we can create another function in order to just add some other designs and display it in a specific way. But I'm gonna still be using the chatbot send message instead of creating another function. So I'm gonna pass these to the chatbot send message function, but before I do so, I am going to work on the design, the way I want these parameters to be displayed. So I'm gonna create a variable here called message to send and it's going to be equal to all of these appended in a specific way. First, I'm gonna just use the break, and then I'm gonna use the message to send plus equals to append the next thing that I want, which is going to be the icon, the weather icon. So I'm gonna here create a span, and inside that span I will have the weather icon. So inside it here, inside the span image, and inside the image we will have the source, which is going to be equal to the icon. So here we need to append and plus plus, and let me here pass the icon. So now we have the icon, and make sure that you append this correctly, otherwise you might get an error. And then we need to message to send in a new line here, plus equals break, another break, and then again message to send plus equals, and now I'm gonna pass the city here, city, and then equals to plus to the city. And in a new line, again in a new line, plus equals the temperature, which is going to be equal to this temperature, this temp, plus temp. And we need also to add the C for Celsius, because it's in Celsius. And then message to send, humidity, which is the last thing. But also here we need the break. Message to send equals plus equals break. And here plus equals humidity, and then plus we need the humidity. And also add here spaces here and here and here. And now that we are done with the message that we will be sending to the user, we can use the chatbot send message, and we pass the message, which is the message to send. And as you noticed now, the message to send variable now contains everything we need the user to see. And here, by the way, this should be not humidity. It was here hum. So make sure that it's correct. And now we are done. Let me now open our browser and refresh. And we no longer need the console. I'm gonna close it, and let me choose number 1 and send and allow, and it's being processed. And as you can see now, I get the temperature, I get the humidity, I get the city, I get the weather icon, which is cloudy. And here the humidity should be in a new line, so here I should add message to send plus equals break. And let me just refresh and do it again. 1 send, and as you can see now it looks better. We have the city, we have the temperature, we have the humidity, and now we have a responsive chat assistant when it comes to the weather.